while the United States is still technically at peace, we thought it'd be worth asking people who are calling for war if they have considered in detail what a war would mean for this country. Congresswoman Maria Salazar was gracious enough to accept our invitation to come on the show. We're grateful she did. She joins us tonight. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, yes. So since you have called for war with Russia, how do you think that war, once it begins, would play out?
I think that's a hypothetical question. I think that we should concentrate, Tucker, in what Zelensky asked Congress today, which is
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. No, and I'm in no way trying to cut you off. But I can't let you allot over that. You said we should shoot down Russian planes. That's of course war. Since you've called for that, and you are a member of Congress. I think. Well, you just said on the tape we played.
That was but that was taken out of context because I said, of course, that I know what that means.
Doesn't that mean direct conventional warfare with Russia?
I don't know what it will mean, but you know, freedom is not free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean if you have to shoot down Russian planes. I mean,
of course. That interview was not very well conducted, and that's why I'm here, because I want to clarify my position. Okay. And my position is that we should not take the no-fly zone off the table. But before that, that's two. We need to do one. And one is to give Zelensky exactly what he's asking for. No troops on the ground. Let's give him the MiGs and the S-300s, what he needs to defend his own airspace. So he will create his own no-fly zone. And that's what I think we should have done months ago. It's embarrassing that this guy, this president, who is under the bullets, has come to Congress to beg for us to give him something that we should have done a long time ago. So since we know that that should not be taken off the table, and I repeat it, I do believe that we should go to plan A, which is to give them all the military weapons that he's asking for. I am asking you, so then what should we do? Okay, all right, so what should we do? Listen, let me just backtrack and say that you say that we're supposed to be representing the American people. I represent District Number 27, where you have millions of Cuban Americans, and I'm representing what we think. We know that we acquired peace through strength. Look at what happened in 1960. Fidel Castro and JFK.
Stop. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm not going to take the anti-communist lecture from anybody because, of course, I agree with you.
No.
And by the way, I hope that
you're
not speaking for, quote, Cuban Americans, but for all Americans, because it's not a racial question. It's a question of
I'm talking about
national interest.
I'm representing District Number 27.
I understand. But I'm just saying, I got it. And I'm as against communism, I think, as anybody. But my question is, if we are providing weapons to one side in a war, I think it's fair to ask, maybe the other side would say that's an act of war against us. And if that happens, then what next? And to not think about that seems negligent, but since you're on the Foreign Affairs Committee, I know that you have thought it through. So tell me your views on what would happen next.
Tucker, we have been providing javelins and stingers and ammunition, and we're providing a lot of military armament. So what is the difference between that and the MiGs and the S-300s? What's the difference? I mean, you have to understand that we are, unfortunately, the United States has fallen into the Vladimir Putin's trap. He is the one dictating what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. He said, we are imposing a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and
so we're letting Putin control our behavior. Okay, so that seems like a loss right there. Right. How many nuclear weapons, by the way, does Russia have? Do you know?
Many.
Only about 6,000 is the guess. One is enough, and that's a fair answer.
One is enough. Of
policies.
Of course that we're very concerned, and we're also concerned that he may be throwing a biological weapon against the Ukrainians within the next few hours because he cannot take Kiev as he thought he was going to. So of course that we are in confronting a dictator. But I think that we should put this into context, and I thank you very much that you're giving me the opportunity.
Of course.
If we believe in the free world, that this is just going to be the first or the last confrontation with a bad actor, we're in for a very big surprise. Because if we do not confront bad actors with strength, then we're going to have China and Russia and Iran and Fidel and Venezuela and Nicaragua. They're watching what we're doing.
So I'm asking you, what do you think the chances are, and I'm sure you've gamed this out as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, that Putin uses a nuclear weapon against the United States in response to this? What would you calculate the chances
Sure that we are taking that into consideration. And I repeat, that's a hypothetical question, and I believe
hardly a hypothetical.
That he will not take that step if, starting today, the Biden administration will send the message that we are in charge, that NATO is ready to confront him, and so are we. And that is the problem that I believe, I'm not sure if you share in my view, that you obtain peace. You obtain this. You can take all the power away from Putin if you show strength.
President Zelensky said yesterday that he is considering declaring that Ukraine would not join NATO in exchange for having Russian troops withdraw from his country. Would you describe this as President Zelensky speaking? Would you describe that?
Zelensky can. Who am I to say what's correct and what's
incorrect?
Would you accept?
Would you? Well, Zelensky? I don't know. You okay? Wait a minute. Hold on. Please don't dodge the question. Is that would that be an answer you'd be satisfied with if Zelensky made good on what he just suggested, that we'll agree to neutrality, we'll relinquish claims to Crimea, and the Russians leave? Would that be okay with you? Would you consider that an honorable exit, or would you consider it a display of weakness?
If Zelensky comes to the United States Congress and he says that this is the best path forward, we are no one to say something to the contrary. But I don't think he's going to say that. So we're creating scenarios here that are hypothetical.
No, we're not. He himself, you may not be following this closely, but he has said that multiple times. So, of course, that outcome would spare the deaths
of him.
Okay, but that would spare the deaths, and since I know you have great concern for the civilian population of Ukraine, that would spare the deaths of untold thousands and preserve the capital city from being destroyed. So would that be better than increasing the level of armed conflict in Ukraine? Which would be a better outcome?
That's for the Ukrainians.
What do you mean? You're an American policymaker who's imposing your views on Ukraine, and I'm asking you simply: would that be a better?
Why not
push? Well, of course you are. You're saying we need to send materiel, billions of dollars, arm the military, and I'm not criticizing your position. I'm just asking you: has it occurred that many lives might be saved if we were to encourage the peaceful solution that's already on the table? Are you doing anything in that direction?
The Ukrainians want to go that route. They have the right to, and we are no one to say anything about it because they are the ones dying on the streets, and they're the ones
and they certainly are. They certainly are dying. That's right. I don't notice any members of Congress or David Frum laying down their lives. It's the Ukrainians. But have you suggested that?
Tucker, I think that we have talked about this point enough. I also wanted you to give me the opportunity to explain to you about open borders because you said that I was in favor of open borders, and I talked to your production.
Well, you just called last month for the amnesty for tens of millions of people who came into this country illegally. But you did, because I read the legislation today.
No, I did not.
Actually, about 20 minutes ago I read it.
Okay, I'm glad you did. And I will invite you to read it again, because just give me 30 seconds, and I promise I'll give it to you in sound bites. The Dignity Act, which I presented last month, is an immigration reform law, probably the first one that the GOP has presented in a long time. Right. It has one of the strongest border security measures in the history of the United States Congress.
Right, got it. But it also provides amnesty for tens of millions of people.
Amnesty is what we have now, Tucker. Amnesty is when you have more than 13 million illegals, listen to me, without paying for schools, for roads, or for hospitals. I am giving them dignity so they can start paying.
But now we're getting pretty deep into the talking points here. What you're doing is people who came over our border without permission are not being punished. They are instead being rewarded. And so
they're not. Let me answer to that.
Very different standard to Ukraine. I'm wondering if Russians fleeing Putin, do you believe, should be allowed to start new and better lives in Ukraine? And I bet you'd say no, because you believe in Ukrainian nationalism, but not American.
I want to be rigorous. I'm talking about those people who have lived here for more than 5 years, that have not committed a crime, that have American children, and who are contributing to our economy. I want to give them something called dignity. And then redemption. I'm not talking about path to citizenship. I'm not talking about amnesty. I'm talking about, I'm not. And I don't want you to misrepresent what we did. And we worked for 1 whole year so we can solve. Just because this bill,
let me ask you.
You don't agree.
Our viewers can read the bill. Let me ask you a simple question. You're for sending MiGs
the fact that
to
you
Ukraine.
don't agree with me doesn't mean that you have to misrepresent what's on the bill.
Okay. Well, look, I think you've said it yourself that people who came here illegally, tens of millions of them, would be allowed to stay. They would not be punished. They would be rewarded. Now, you think that's enhancing their dignity? By the way, I'm not against those people. I just can't help notice the contrast between your desire to send MiGs to Ukraine to preserve its borders, but not here. Should we send the U.S. military to the Mexican border, since you have admitted that tens of millions of people have come here illegally, that our borders are porous, they're not defended, they are open? Should we send the U.S. military to the Mexican border?
That is what I have created a whole plan so we can really seal the border. Because you know what? My community, the one that I represent, let me finish. Let me finish.
America,
the one that I represent.
Okay.
Listen, let me finish. Give me 15 seconds.
I shall.
Thank you. I have created a series of measures so we can secure the border. Because we, the Browns, the Hispanics, the Latinos in this country, are not in favor of open borders. The problem is that no one asks us. We want to live in the promised land, and we want to contribute, because you know very well that if we deport those 11 or 13 million, we may not have food by Friday. Why? Because the food supply chain...
Please, and I'm sorry, I think everyone understands this, that we have other supply chain issues. And by the way, I'm not attacking anybody living in this country legally or illegally. I'm asking a question about borders. All of us are appalled by the violation of Ukraine's borders. You don't seem as appalled by the violation of our borders by tens of millions of people. So let me ask you for the third time.
Sure,
you support
I do.
Military
That's a misrepresentation.
Equipment. Okay, then would you support the U.S. military securing the United States border tonight, or on the same timetable as sending MiGs to Ukraine? How about that?
That's hypothetical again.
No, it's a very straightforward question. What are you talking? You're a lawmaker.
No, it's not
hypothetical. What do you mean? Just say it. You're not for it, and you're for it in Ukraine, but not here.
You're giving me the whole segment, which is great, and I thank you very much. Let's go back to my bill.
Wrong. I don't want to misrepresent you.
I am correct.
I'm asking you, you don't support sending the U.S. military to the border? You don't. I just want our viewers to understand that you're for defending a foreign country, but not our own. And I think it's pretty clear.
I am
Please correct me if I'm wrong.